Over the last few years, the United States has systematically ramped up the pressure, driving Venezuela to the brink of collapse, issuing stark ultimatums to Mexico, Colombia, and Cuba, signaling strategic interest in seizing Greenland, and turning up the heat in the Middle East. And finally, the breaking point. The aggressive tariff bills passed just days ago, targeting even strategic partners like India. But the world is pushing back. China is accelerating its rise. Russia is digging in against Western pressure. Iran is boiling from the inside out. And our global trade routes are rapidly transforming into battlefields. So today, less than 2 weeks after the incident, we are going to answer 5 critical questions to understand where we go from here. First, what does this new pressure on Venezuela signal for Russia, China, India, and the EU? Second, could the fallout from January 3rd push China to finally move on Taiwan? Thirdly, why has Iran suddenly become so unstable, and is there a U.S. factor involved? Fourth, what is the realistic path forward for the U.S. regarding Iran? And finally, what is the real motivation behind these new tariffs on India? Stay until the end, because these aren't isolated events. They are all pieces of the same puzzle. Venezuela is far more than just another nation on the South American continent. It represents a geopolitical pivot point, sitting atop the largest proven oil reserves on the planet, while occupying a critical strategic position just south of the United States. Crucially, it also serves as a rare foothold in the Western Hemisphere for both Russia and China. For years, Washington has deployed a trinity of tactics against Caracas: heavy sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and relentless economic pressure. The underlying message to the global stage is stark. If you attempt to break the system will break you. But we must ask the critical question. If Venezuela were to fall completely under U.S. influence, what are the true global ramifications? Russia loses its key strategic partner in the Americas. India faces renewed pressure regarding its neutrality and oil sourcing. And Europe receives confirmation that sustained American pressure yields results. Ultimately, this struggle isn't just about the future of Venezuela. It is about setting a precedent for the entire world order. Here lies the dangerous logic of escalation. As Beijing observes the United States tightening its grip on critical frontiers, from Latin America and the Arctic routes to key energy corridors, a disturbing question arises within the halls of power. Chinese leadership begins to calculate. If Washington can project power into our backyard, why can we not do the same? In this geopolitical calculus, Taiwan becomes the answer. This shift doesn't necessarily happen because China wants war, but because they fear that hesitation will be interpreted as weakness. A decisive American move in Venezuela sends 3 unmistakable signals: confidence, global reach, and dominance. However, this projection of strength unintentionally ramps up internal pressure on China's leadership. This creates a dangerous paradox. The more aggressive the U.S. appears on the global stage, the more compelled China feels to assert itself regionally. While this does not guarantee an invasion of Taiwan, it undeniably raises the geopolitical temperature to a boiling point. Iran represents one of the most critical geopolitical nodes on the map. Its global significance is undeniable, driven by 3 factors: vast hydrocarbon reserves, dominance over the Strait of Hormuz choke point, and its role as a strategic bridge for both Beijing and Moscow. Yet, Tehran has operated under the weight of Western sanctions for decades, and under sustained, intensifying pressure, the consequences are predictable. The economy atrophies, public frustration reaches a fever pitch, and dangerous internal fractures begin to widen. This brings us to a crucial realization. The United States does not require boots on the ground to exert influence over Iran. In modern warfare, the weapon of choice is economic asphyxiation. Through currency collapse, trade isolation, and heightened regional tension, external powers can successfully engineer internal instability. To be clear, this does not imply that Washington directly orchestrates every protest on the streets. Rather, the pressure campaign systematically manufactures the conditions where unrest becomes inevitable. A direct military invasion of Iran would be nothing short of catastrophic. Such a conflict would detonate global stability. Oil prices would explode overnight, the entire Middle East would descend into chaos, and global markets would panic. Perhaps most dangerously, it would force China and Russia to align more aggressively than ever before to protect their interests. Because of these risks, Washington's actual strategy is far more calculated. The United States does not seek conquest, it seeks containment. Through a combination of crippling sanctions, strengthened regional alliances, and strategic patience, the goal is not to physically destroy the Iranian state, but to surgically amputate its ability to reshape the region. In the eyes of the West, Iran is not a target for occupation. It is a target for control through pressure. The objective isn't to win a war. It is to ensure that Tehran never has the power to start one on its own terms. This brings us to the most surprising piece of the puzzle: India. Unlike the previous examples, New Delhi is not an enemy. So why does Washington deploy tariffs and economic pressure here? The answer lies in India's trajectory. It is becoming increasingly independent, fiercely neutral, and deeply interconnected with both Russia and the emerging global South. In this context, tariffs are not designed as punishment. They are calibrated signals. The message Washington is sending is subtle but unmistakable. Choose carefully which system you benefit from. The United States has no interest in weakening a potential ally. Instead, it is attempting to shape India's strategic choices before they are set in stone. This is the reality of modern power. It is rarely about destruction. It is about the quiet, relentless engineering of compliance. So, what is the true nature of what we are witnessing? It is not chaos. It is not random acts of aggression. We are observing the friction of a tectonic shift, the slow erosion of a unipolar world met by the inevitable rise of a multipolar challenge. We are watching a superpower straining to hold the seams of the existing global architecture together. Venezuela, Iran, Taiwan, Greenland, tariffs. These are not isolated incidents. They are interconnected chapters of the same book. If this breakdown offered you a new perspective on these global mysteries, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Atlas Untold. Because borders may shift and maps may change, but power always leaves a pattern.